What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's FFDev here, and in this video we're going to be covering functions, overloading functions, return types, and constructors. So what I did was I opened up our project that we've been using to learn how to code, and I basically just deleted everything out of the main function except return 0, and I'll go ahead and delete this includes cstdlib because we're not going to need it right now. And I'm going to show you guys how a function works. So let's say, for instance, that we wanted to print out a message when we ran this program. I know we've seen this before. You don't even have to type this in if you don't want to. I'm just showing you by example because I'm going to be deleting it anyways. Hello. Alright, so that's going to print hello. And you see how it can get tedious typing in the C out, or this std C out and the std end line every time. I want to make this code run. It ends up being a lot of extra typing, so what we can actually do is write a function to take care of that for us. So what we'll do is, because this doesn't take anything, this doesn't return anything, so this does not need a return value in it, so we'll call it void, and we'll just call this log, L-O-G. We'll make it take an std string, and after you put the string in the parameters, you're going to press enter and then add some braces. And these little curly brackets here, you see it's set up similarly, if I can say that, to the main function, except we do have parameters here, and this means that it's got to take a string. And so we're also going to give the string a name. We're going to call it S, or we could actually call it message. If it makes you feel better. That's going to be the name of the string. So what we'll do is we'll type in std cout, and you'll see what it's doing. Message. And then we'll type in std inline. Alright. So whenever we call this function, we just type in log, and then we add a message to it. And it's going to output that message, and it's going to do this stuff, the std cout, and it's going to do the std inline automatically. So now instead of typing hello this way, we could just type in log, add the brackets, and because strings always got to be within the quotation marks, we'll just type in hello everyone. Then we'll add our semicolon at the end, and now you'll see if when we write it, it'll be like hello everyone. And now we can also do this again. See, I didn't mean to put that space there. How's everyone doing today? Oh, I forgot my semicolon. Alright, how's everyone doing today? Now you see how much typing that saved us in the long run, just by calling this log function. And with that being said, we're going to cover another topic, which is the constructor. Now you remember how everything, as I said, always runs in the main function as your main function. Well, you can constantly put functions, above the main function and push it way down, but then you're going to be scrolling all the way down to find your main function to use it. There's a better way to do this, so I'm just going to copy this, or actually cut this, Control X if you're on Windows, and I'm going to paste it down here. Void log string message. And so now we put our function below the main, so we don't have to scroll down. But whenever we try to run this, we're going to get an error. And that's because the main function doesn't know about this function yet, since it hasn't came before the main function. But we can call a constructor. That way it knows that this function exists somewhere and will look for it. So the way we do that is, instead of just typing in log here first, we're going to type in void, the entire name of the function. So just as it is below, and then we'll just put in std string, and I believe you can do it like this, and you don't even have to put the message part, but just for the sake of it, just put what type it takes as the parameters, and now when we run it, it knows that that function exists and it will look for it. But see, it also works that way. So if you don't want to actually name the variables in there and just put the type they take in the parameters as well in the constructor, you can do that as well. So all that this basically does is tells your main function that this void log function exists somewhere in the program, and it's going to look for it. So once it sees this, it looks for it, it finds it, and then it knows how to use the log function here. And that's all there is to it, and it's really helpful just for the fact that you don't have to scroll, push your main function all the way down, and you can keep all your whole actual program running up top here, and it's really easy. It's really easy to find because it's at the very top. You don't have to scroll all the way down to find it and call your functions. That's what a constructor is. Now, we're going to talk about, I'm going to go ahead and delete this, we're going to talk about return types. As you see, that main is an int, so it's an integer. Main, it returns a 0, or it does return an integer. Let's say we wanted to, just for the sake of it, I'm going to put it up here. We're going to put int add, and we're going to say integer A and integer B. And the name of our function is add. So now what we're going to do is say int C, because we need something to hold it, equals A plus B. And now we just return C. And what this is going to do is it's going to return the C integer, which is A plus B added together. So now all we got to do to get this function is we just got to say, or to use this function is add, and then we just plug in two integers, 5 and 10. And that's going to be equal to 15, but we want to see that result, so we can just output this with the std cout command, and we don't even really need to add any lines. We're not adding anything else. Now as you see, it prints off 15. And that works amazingly. And that's what an add function does, or a integer function does, is you just always got to have a return type. You always got to return an integer if it's an integer function. In which, I don't know why you would do this, but you could have it, let's say, return 1, and then now it's just going to return 1, and this function's basically useless. But as you see, it will return 1. But usually when you use a return type, it's because you want to return some information to something somewhere. And that's the purpose of the return types. Now, I'm going to show you something called function overloading. And this could also be covered. I'll show you a quick example. Let me cut this. This could also be done the same way as we did our previous function. We just got to let it know that it exists by calling a constructor. It takes in two integers, and you see any type you can put below and use a constructor to let the main function know that it exists. 15. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to create another function called add. This is function overloading, and it's got to be nearly the same. It's going to have the same name, except this time it's going to take in floats. Now, we're going to type in float A, or actually just float for a constructor. I know we haven't changed the name of that function yet. So instead of it taking an integer here, we take a float. Now, what we will do is we're going to change this to float C. So now it says we have a float function. It takes in a float A and a float B, and float C is the both of those added together, and then we just return C. And essentially what we're doing is we have two functions here, and whenever we call our function, it's just add. So if we run this right now, it's gonna use the integer function, which adds integers. So it's gonna be 15 again. But let's say we add 5.5 and 10.2. Try adding an F. Ooh. So as we see there, it is important to add the F. When calling it now, it returns 15.7. So in the constructor here, where we tell our main function that there's a function, that there's an add that returns an add, and there's an add that returns a float. And it will come until it finds the function. And this one's the float return one. This is called overloading. This is function overloading, actually. So what we will do here is this one return if you add in integers, it's going to call the integer function. If you add in floats, it's going to return the float function. But you can also, I believe, not 100% sure, you can add in a whole number, but you're going to have to put it's in 5.0f if you want to add an integer and a float. It has to be in that format. But as you see, that works because this takes in floats. But showing you guys this, I believe this just about covers everything in the video. And this is going to be helpful in our next project, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and it taught you guys a little bit of something about coding. Comment below if you like the video, and be sure to subscribe. See you guys in the next video. Later.